Hey, what's up? This is Tristan. I'm in a friend's apartment right now. It's on the 23rd floor. Let me show you the view real quick. It's right here. You see that? Yeah. All right. Just to answer a few quick questions right off the bat. Where am I right now? I'm in Taipei, Taiwan. I just got here maybe like 4 hours ago. That's when my plane landed. I got here to this apartment maybe 3 hours ago. It is now 11:30 in the morning. Today's date is May 28th. Let me show you something. Um, May 28th. And I will be spending the next 14 or so days right here in this apartment 24/7. Not gonna be able to go out because of the quarantine. And so here at the airport, they gave me this health status form, and on the corner they wrote that I could leave no sooner than June 12th at midnight. So, 14 full days of quarantine I will be spending in this apartment. So, why am I making this quarantine vlog? I am bored. To say that I have a lot of time on my hands would be a gross understatement at this point. So at this moment, I just want to say my condolences to you, whoever you are, if you are in any way negatively impacted by the COVID-19 virus outbreak. Not an ideal situation that I'm in to be stuck in the same apartment room for the next 14 days or so, but I understand that a lot of people have it a lot worse than me, so my sympathies again to anybody who is negatively impacted by the outbreak. So in the meantime, I thought, why not give myself a little project to pass the time, and just so you all know that I'm doing all right, to show you sort of bits and pieces of what it's like being in quarantine for me, and hopefully we both get something out of it, and we have a little bit of fun in the meantime. To give you guys a little bit of background about what exactly I'm doing in Taiwan at the moment, my family consists of my parents, so my dad, my mom, and I also have a younger brother. He is finishing up his senior year of high school, and he's going to take a gap year. So the plan was for my parents and my brother to move back from Silicon Valley, where we lived, to Taiwan for a year. And by that plan, I would be the only person, in California, because I attend Stanford. I'm a sophomore for a little bit. But then something happened. At the end of the winter quarter, I was informed that Stanford would be offering a full refund before a certain date for a quarter due to COVID-19 virus outbreak complications. So before a certain date, if any Stanford student wishes to declare that they don't want to take virtual classes, they could just get a full refund and just take a leave of absence for a quarter, which is what I did for myself, because, well, for one, I really liked the classes that I selected for my spring quarter, and I just thought it would be a huge shame if I wasn't going to be able to take those classes in person. So I thought, why not just, take the time off. I have kind of the leisure to, and I thought it would be the better choice, to make the most use of my time if I pursue my own projects, maybe do some coding and work on my YouTube vlog and whatnot for a little bit. And that opened up the opportunity for me to remain with the rest of my family and to move back to Taiwan for a little bit, maybe like 3 months until like fall quarter starts up. Hopefully that's not virtual as well. So that's pretty much exactly what we did. Obviously, a few things had to happen before we were all able to move back to Taiwan. First thing, plane tickets. So we originally booked tickets for a flight on June 2nd. However, that did not work out as the flight was canceled, which put us into a little bit of a frenzy trying to find another one. Luckily, we did. It was a little bit early, however. It left on May the 27th, really early in the morning, like 1 o'clock. which is the flight that we got on, but it meant we had to pack things up in our house in California a lot faster than we originally planned to. Another thing we had to do was look for an apartment for our family to live in. We had a really generous family friend who was able to help us out by checking out houses for us in the Taipei area. We were very fortunate to find a house very close to the place where we originally lived in Nehu district of Taipei. And you know, my family was well aware of the fact that there was going to be a 14-day quarantine. But then I thought, you know, 14 days, that's fine because, you know, we're all going to be living in the same place, so that's great. You know, there was going to be Uber Eats, whatever equivalent, delivery takeout, Taiwanese food is awesome. There was going to be TV, so all we had to do really, right, was just grit our teeth, get through these 14 days, and then, you know, we'd be able to go out and get... Taiwan does a great job, you know, keeping the virus under control, so, you know, shops are open. You can go to the restaurants afterward, you could watch a movie if you want to, you could hang out with your friends, you could go shopping, you can do all this stuff at your will. You know, even stuff that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do in the US or other parts of the world at this time. So I thought, hey, you know, 14 days, right, that kind of sucks, you know, being stuck in an apartment, but it's fine, you know, all we gotta do is just get through that. It was all gonna be okay. And most of what I said, to the best of my knowledge, still holds true. However, 2 days ago, my family learned something about the specifics of the layout of your apartment for the quarantine that we did not know before. And that was that each person in quarantine needed to have their own room and their own restroom, which was isolated from the rest of the rooms and their restrooms. And this was a problem because our apartment, while could accommodate for 4 people, only had 2 restrooms, which means that 2 of us was going to have to live somewhere else. And so we had to reconsider our options really quickly. One thing that we could have done was have 2 of us live in hotel rooms in one of the many designated hotels that the Taiwanese government has set aside for people who are visiting and had to be quarantined. They were each their own room, and obviously they had their own restrooms. But that would mean that the 2 of us would have to live in these rooms by themselves for 2 weeks, and it also costs money. And then we learned of a second option. The same family that helped us check out houses and buy our apartment in Nehu district also had a second home in Danshui district, and which they were graciously willing to lend us for 2 weeks. And so again, really grateful for everything they did for us, you know, shopping for everything, stockpiling both our apartments, both in Danshui and in Nehu, for the next 2 weeks, you know, making sure we had everything we needed, and also lending us this apartment which I'm in right now, in Danshui district. I am with my mom, my dad is with my brother, in our own apartment in Nehu, and so this will be where I will be staying for the next 2 weeks, as I said before. So based on everything I just said earlier, you might be thinking to yourself, so Tristan, why don't you just, I don't know, lie about it, right? Like, for example, who's gonna know that, like, there are only 2 restrooms in your apartment? Why does your family just live there anyways? You know, stuff like that. And to be honest with you, one of the biggest reasons why I'm unwilling to do that is because I do not want to take the risk of getting caught, given how extremely cautious the Taiwanese government and its citizens are when it comes to trying to prevent the spread of this virus. Okay, so right now let me do something and demonstrate just to what length the Taiwanese government is willing to go to make sure the virus is not spread here. Right, so the first thing I'd like to point out is this form that I got on the plane. It says COVID-19 Health Declaration and Home Quarantine Notice. It's basically kind of like a form that you probably expect to be filling out when you're going through the customs of any other place right now, so like the US or something, right? So it's pretty standard and typical, right? It asks for your nationality, your passport number, your gender, your flight number, and it asks you questions like, have you ever had, fever or respiratory symptoms like cough, shortness of breath in the last 14 days, which you'll probably say no to, where have you been? Have you had, contact with anybody suspected of getting COVID-19 in the past 14 days, right? And it also asks you, right, for your phone number, your address, and stuff like that, right? So pretty typical. Another thing that is maybe not so typical is that in addition to the form that I just showed you, they asked us all to fill out a second digital form on our phones, which they use to keep track of everybody's phone numbers and also everybody's device. Maybe like 30 minutes after I got to this apartment today, I got a call from the district office. An official told me, well, first of all, they asked me how I was doing. Have I demonstrated any symptoms, blah, 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 straight off the bat, right? And they also told me that that I should not turn off my phone for the next 14 days during the quarantine because I should be expected to be called every day for the next 2 weeks. They will check up on me at least once per day, every day for the next 14 days, which I'm in quarantine. I'm also expected to use the second form to basically log whether or not I have any symptoms and also to log my own temperature for the next 14 days that I am in quarantine. And to demonstrate that they're actually serious about enforcing this, they make very clear that they will provide you with a temperature taking device if we don't have any. And on the back of the same form, there is a list of all the cities in Taiwan and the corresponding numbers to call if we have any questions about the quarantine. So right here. And so with all that said, right, to answer a previous question, right, why don't you just lie and just, stay in the same apartment even though, like, it has 2 less bathrooms than, is required, right? In fact, like, why not just, like, sneak out and go buy some food, right? And the answer to that question, at least for me, right, is, look, guys, they're really serious about it. They call you every day. They have a record of your device that they make clear that they use to track your whereabouts. They know where you are based on where your phone is, right? In terms of the management of our apartment, the security, right, the people who live there, the other residents, right, somebody knows, right, the floor plan of these apartment rooms. Somebody knows that there's 4 people living in that room and not enough restrooms, right? If we pull that, all it takes, right, is one person, right, and, to tip us off, and we will be fined, right, 150,000 new Taiwanese dollars, right? If I so much as sneak out and, like, one person, right, tells on me, right, then I'm also fined, right, immediately 150,000 new Taiwanese dollars, right? Not worth it. And maybe the logical follow-up question would be, what are the chances that people will tell on you? And the answer to that question for me is, I think there's a pretty good chance that somebody will tell on you. The chances are probably not very high, but they are high enough such that at least I would not want to take the risk. And the reason why I say this is because on, the Taiwanese media, news, right, frequently you hear reports of people who violated quarantine, in some way, like maybe they snuck out, right, and were reported and were caught and fined, right, like that. And you also hear from other people directly, such that, these things happen, right, so frequently, right, that you feel it can't just be the case of availability bias that, these things, right, you're hearing about them, right, there's actually a significant number of people, being reported and thus being caught and fined. And the reason behind this, at least in my opinion, is that Taiwanese people in general take it upon themselves to ensure that the virus is not spread in their communities, right? And if that means that, reporting people who they see that violates quarantine, a lot of them, a good number of them, will take it upon themselves to do exactly that, just to make sure that they are safe and that the people around them are safe. And as much as I find it annoying, right, that they're keeping such a close eye on us, I have to admit that there is sort of a merit in it, when everybody, government officials and citizens alike are doing their part to make sure, this virus is contained and that no outbreaks happen here. Okay, so right now it's 3:30 p.m. I just got a knock on my door. It was district official again, and this time she was here to deliver these packages. So I got one for me and an equivalent one for my mom. So I just took the leisure of opening it up, see what's inside. So, there's a healthy amount of stuff in here. Right off the bat, we got masks. I'm gonna guess that there is 14, because one for each day in quarantine. So masks. And then here we got a couple pamphlets. So this is actually a letter from the mayor, kind of thanking you for your cooperation of, adhering to the quarantine policies, right? Thanking you for your sacrifice, and apologizing in advance for any inconveniences that you may have. This actually takes the time to teach you how to correctly put on a mask, and right behind how to properly wash your hands. Here we have a QR code for an app for exercising. I guess when you're stuck inside, exercise is an essential thing. So it offers you that resource as well. This appears to be kind of like FAQs, like questions that people in quarantine may ask and answers. So, can I live with my family members, which I talked about before? You need to have your own restrooms and you need to have your own rooms. What about delivery, right? How do I dispose properly of waste that I produce during this time? How do I clean the environment? How do I cope with, living indoors? Right, and will I be fine? Yes, you will be fine. And here we have some other stuff, but really, right, this is, in my opinion, right, going above and beyond, to ensure, the safety of its citizens, I think, by a long shot. And I think, I'm just thoroughly surprised by what they're doing. Alright, so first food delivery during our time in quarantine, and guess what we got, right? So I'm gonna say this once, and I'm gonna say it one time only. I don't care if I'm in quarantine, right? I'm gonna get boba tea wherever I want and wherever I please. So, right, we got three, because why not? None of them are really milk teas, per se. They're all really fruits. So this one is just like assorted fruits. I guess it's kind of hard to translate on the name exactly. This one's grape. That's pretty unique in my opinion. And this one is the classic passion fruit green tea, right? And guess how much these three cost together, right? And the answer to that question is $7 US, and that's plus tax, plus delivery fee, get wrecked. And guess what, guys? While I was talking about the bigger package, I neglected to talk about the smaller package, which is from the Environmental Protection Department. So in it, and I took the leisure again of opening it, are a number of, what are these? They are trash bags, yeah? Except, they're not your usual trash bags because they are a hot pink, as you can see. And the reason behind this, I figure, is that they want to be able to tell really clearly that this is trash from households in quarantine and not like the rest of the trash that other people put out, right? And so it says here in this attached letter, right? What exactly do with your trash in quarantine? And the first thing it says, right, is to make sure that your trash bags are not completely filled. They're only like 70% filled at most. They are tied securely so nothing leaks out, right? And it also says, right, better yet, just don't put out any trash during this period. Throw it out later. If you absolutely have to, though, right, people will come pick it up once every 2 days. And how you do it is you leave it outside your door, and they'll make sure the door is closed before they come in and take it away. You don't need to do any sorting, recyclables, garbage, compost, whatsoever. These are actually treated as biohazard, and they are processed separately from the rest of the trash. Again, they take this extremely seriously. Oh, and if you break any rules, just saying, right, you are subject to a fine of $3,000 to $30,000. So, strong deterrent not to, break any of the rules that they give you once again. Okay, so it's 5 p.m. right now, and surprisingly the jet lag hasn't gotten to me. I figured it will pretty soon, so I just want to conclude this by saying, if you've gotten this far, I'm very flattered. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully you found this bit to be informative, interesting, or entertaining, or all the above. And I think I want to say at the end, and maybe this is just me voicing my own thoughts, but my hopes for myself in remaining 2 weeks quarantine would probably be, not having spent all of it, just browsing YouTube and sleeping for ungodly periods of time, and eating junk food and doing a bunch of other unhealthy and probably not that meaningful things, but rather, having committed to, new projects, developed a good routine, throw a little exercise in the mix maybe, and, just, maybe, pursue some hobbies that I haven't had a chance to in a long time, like maybe just read a good book and stuff like that. I feel like anything would be better than just, trying to kill the time. Hopefully, y'all can help keep me accountable to all that I just said, because I feel for me it's easier said than done. And, I think that concludes this bit. I'll see you tomorrow, I guess.